Now, Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
It is 6:07, Wilson and Ham today. We are Neimanless. He's taking a little vacation time, and of course there is a big bit of news this morning. We'll continue to follow it. Al-Awlaki, this guy that we've been wanting to get for so long, apparently has been killed in Yemen. We'll have details throughout the morning.
And we will talk to an ABC reporter on that. I'm interested to see whether the U.S. did this or the Yemen
or if we'll
did this,
ever really know.
Exactly.
That's fine with me. I don't have to know. I just am glad he's dead.
He is an American citizen, so that caused some complications for us. All right, we have Peter Morici, professor at University of Maryland, economist. How's it going?
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello. So there's a lot of talk over the past couple days about something that's really going to hit people at home. They're Bank of America adding fees to the debit card.
Well, I bet it won't hit you because I bet you have a premium checking account.
I don't know if I do, actually.
Well, if you keep my bank, I think it's like $2,500.
Right.
If you keep that much there,
okay.
They give you a premium account and they give you a bundle of services.
I work in radio. I don't have that kind of money.
We've been over that last week. You guys are in a profitable enterprise, not like Barack Obama. But in any case, Bank of America is not going to apply it to its premium customers, and likely the same at other banks.
Okay.
As a consequence, what they're really going to do is sock it to the poor woman that cleans your house.
Yikes. And how did this come about?
Well, the banks were accustomed to charging, I think it was like 44 cents or 48 cents every time you swiped your card, to purchase something with, you buy a bagel or something. But I found it remarkable that they could process a check, which is a piece of paper, for less because they do that for free. And what's going on here? The bottom line is that the banks really charge too much for swiping. The Federal Reserve was given authority to regulate that price. The estimated cost was much less than 24 cents, which the Fed decided to give them. That they still would do well at 24 cents, but they've become used to that money. And whenever an institution like the Bank of America becomes used to money, think, so our listeners can understand, of Congress. They spend it. They spend it on bureaucracy. They spend it on... We've all been to banks and been greeted by fools who remind us of the Commerce Department. And that's what's going on. Bank of America simply doesn't know how to cut costs where it counts so it really can be competitive. And this is an example of it. And they're balancing their budget on the backs of the poor. This is one of the most insidious things I've seen a bank do.
I want to talk to you about solar energy, which apparently is a top priority of the Obama administration. We know what happened with Solyndra. They gave them $535 million in loan guarantees, and the company was in the throes of going belly up at the time they did it, and it didn't take them long to burn through that $535 and go belly up anyway. And so now we see that another $1 billion in solar loans have been given, including a $737 million loan guarantee to a company that had ties to, interestingly enough, Nancy Pelosi's brother-in-law.
Right.
Brother-in-law. So my question is it, do we need to be making, as a government, a big investment in solar? Is it so important to our future?
Solar energy is very important to our future.
But, I mean, is it really profitable?
Solar energy, as it stands right now, is not profitable. Neither were the airlines in the 30s. That's why we gave them the mail routes. The real problem here, and I hate to keep harping back at this, is the Chinese are heavily subsidizing industry, limiting the sales of American companies in China, imposing high tariffs, and benefiting from their undervalued currency, which makes it very difficult for American companies to be competitive in what is an emerging industry. Mm-hmm. Instead of dealing with those problems in China, which we have well within our capacity to do, the administration has thrown some money at these industries, and that's just not enough to sustain them. That's part of the problem. The second thing is you don't get your presidents from Louisiana or Chicago, and you don't put ward politicians in charge of making national policy. You know, you can put up a bogus basketball hoop in Chicago or San Francisco with a little bit of federal money without, doing great damage. You can give the contract to your cousin to lay the asphalt or something. But when you're making national policy, it requires greater self-discipline. than, the kind of nepotism that Pelosi is.
Right.
It's really an intellectual nepotism, like, creating the credit card regulatory agency inside the Fed, which, by the way, should be looking at these credit card fees. They look a lot like credit cards. Just to make Elizabeth Warren happy because she was an Obama supporter. You can't create whole government agencies just to keep particular political constituents happy from the point of view of sustaining their support.
All right, Peter, but let me ask you this question. I mean, I hear you, and I understand what you're saying.
We just have to act presidential. Take a page out of Lyndon Johnson. He cleaned up his act when he became president. Obama got dirtier.
Okay, let me ask you this question, though, and I want to get back to, if solar energy is all that and a bag of chips, if it is the latest, greatest thing and something we must invest in, it would seem to me that if there was money to be made on solar, that the private sector would be making these investments.
And it would do it, but you can't expect the private sector to compete with the treasury of China.
Right.
When China's cheating on the rules, everything they're doing over there violates their WTO agreements, and Mr. Short Pants, Tim Geithner, doesn't think anything should be done about it. He's still busy learning how to put loafers on.
Yeah, well, what concerns me is that the DOE guy,
he can't tie his shoes.
The DOE guy who testified on this to Congress said, yeah, the problem is that the Chinese are subsidizing this a whole lot more than we are, which frightens me that we might just start throwing more money at it.
Absolutely. We need to deal with the systemic issues. It's like the old story of the stimulus package. It provides an opportunity for Mr. Obama to give out money to his union constituencies, so they'll put those feet in the field for him in 2012, as opposed to dealing with really ails the economy. Trade with China overall, as it affects the entire economy, gives us this lack of demand for what we make. Oil, over-regulation, misregulation, abusive regulation. Now we're doing regulating simply for the purposes of creating jobs for Harvard professors, and that didn't even work out. No, and this is why you see, for example, in his own party, in the Senate, where people tend to be a little bit more contemplative than, rise to the biscuit Pelosi. Yes, rise to the biscuit Pelosi. Anytime you have a chance for legalized graft, she jumps, she leaps right through the fiery hoop. But this is why in the Senate, where people tend to be more contemplative and less party aligned in their actions than as much in their rhetoric, they're slow-walking his bill. They don't want any more of this nonsense. They see the country is not progressing. The bottom line, are you any better off today than you were 4 years ago when Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the House?
Yeah, that's the price they're going to pay. And that's the question. Real quick about Europe. The new headline is that Europe, once again, averting disaster. Is this just another Band-Aid?
It reminds me, I once asked a pilot, a physician, what do you do if you have a pilot who's an alcoholic, okay? And you're up in the air with him, and he's not drunk, right? He hasn't been drinking, but all of a sudden he goes into withdrawal, okay?
Yeah.
You give him another drink to get to the ground, and that's what they're doing. They're taking another drink over there. They're not solving their systemic problems. The euro makes about as much sense as the stimulus package, but it's just much less sense because it's an enduring structural issue where the stimulus package is something we can just skip.
All right.
And so until they deal with those things, the lack of central authority to share revenues,